करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Hari Om and good evening to all. The topic for the day is ego. See, ego refers to the sense of individuality. In Sanskrit, you can use the word jivatva. Any entity which has a conscious life principle functioning in it has this sense of individuality by which it proclaims that I am this. That sense of I which every living creature carries is called as the ego. In fact, the term ego means I. So, the ultimate proclamation of Vedanta is that there is one infinite reality which is called as Brahman. And Brahman alone exists. And you are that. You are that supreme reality. You are that infinite consciousness is the declaration of Vedanta. But we have assumed an individuality which is separate from that infinity. It is a different subject altogether. Whether this separation is real or not, we are not getting into it. But the fact is undeniable that we are feeling a sense of separateness. We are identifying ourselves with a small entity now, which is different from the world, which is different from God, is what is our present experience. So this is a experience which cannot be denied. Therefore, all living creatures, technically, till the point they attain self-realization or God realization, do possess this individuality or ego. So this is the fundamental ego which everybody has, and it is sort of natural for everybody. But ego is not used from the absolute standpoint of this way only. Even from a relative standpoint, ego is understood as what is known as Ahankar. This is the more famous term that everybody know. Ahankar is the sense of I, which is a pronounced version of oneself, which is an exaggerated version of oneself. That is also called as ego. In fact, this is the ego that we need to deal with. This is the ego that we need to concentrate on as to how to reduce. So this is called as also ego. This is part of our inner system. The inner equipments, for those who are new, we are made up of these three equipments called as, or let us put it this way, we are made up of this external body, external personality, which is our physical body. But within that personality is what is known as inner personality. This inner personality is called as Antakarana. You will find that all the gods and goddesses in our Hindu religion, most of them at least, will have 4 hands. One way of symbolism is that it represents the 4 inner equipments of an individual. Since the thoughts or the inner equipments cannot be picturized, they picturize it as these 4 hands. What are these 4 equipments? It is famously called as Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta. Manas or Manaha, which is called as mind. Buddhi, which is the intellect. Ahankara, which is the ego. Chittam, which is the seat of memory, which is a function of, you can say, consciousness. Conditioned consciousness is Chitta. Of these 2, we constantly deal with, and we should always focus on the first 2 only, which is the mind and the intellect. All aspects of self-management ultimately boils down to controlling of our mind with our intellect. So all the sessions that we do and all the practical Vedanta is based on self-management, which revolves around these 2 equipments, which is mind and intellect. Essentially, the mind is equipment which flows by itself, which is a seat of emotions, which is naturally flowing. Even for animals, we say that the mind is there. But human being possesses a superior equipment called intellect. Intellect is the faculty of discrimination. Intellect is the faculty of reasoning. So with the reasoning, you ought to control the mind. So we need to focus on these two equipments only. These four equipments, please remember, are not four different gadgets or something which is sitting inside our system. These are to be understood based on the functional difference. And as I say, the first two are what is important, the mind and intellect. When your own thoughts are in a very volatile state, when they are in a flowing fashion, it's going. When it is indiscriminate, when it flows by itself, it is called mind. The same thought flow, when it is directed by you, which is based on decision. Nishchayatmika buddhi, says Shankaracharya. Nishchayatmika means it is certainty about this thought. It has come to a decisive thought. The decisive thought is called as intellect. Sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. When you are in a state of indecisiveness to do or not to do, that type of a state, when it is there, that is called as mind. So it is the functional difference that we need to understand with reference to our inner equipments. Mind is when it is free flowing and it is indiscriminate. When it is decisive, it is called as intellect. These two equipments function in the foreground of our personality. Foreground means they are the equipment that you are conscious of, that you need to work on. Simultaneously at the background, another two equipments function. Equipments in the sense, again, it is not a strictly an equipment, but parallelly two thoughts are there, you can say. They are called as ego and chit, conditioned consciousness. Ego is called as Ahankar. Here Ahankara means it is an, what to say? Here Ahankara means a sense of arrogation. An arrogating thought which says this is me, that thought is called as ego. Something says this is me, this body is me, this mind is me, this intellect is me, I feel I am this. This identifying thought, a thought which identifies with your body, mind and intellect, is called as ego. This thought does not come out vehemently outside like the mind or the intellect, but it is operating parallelly and it is like a base which is continuously there. So this arrogating thought will be always there. So when you wake up from the sleep, before you think of anything else, before any other thought comes to you, what thought comes is that I am there. This thought doesn't come that I am there, but that sense of individuality, that I is there, that is called as an ego. So the ego here is the sense of individuality or I, which arrogates your body, mind and intellect to yourself. So you can say that arrogating thought is Ahankar or ego. Another thought is called as awareing thought. Awareing thought is a chit. Awareing thought is, as you go through your experience, parallelly there is something which is awareing that what I go through as my perceptions, actions, emotions and thoughts, something parallelly awares. That is why it is called as conditioned consciousness. The consciousness which is being focused upon my actions, which is being focused on my perceptions, emotions and thoughts, which forms the basis of my memory. So even if you are not consciously thinking or consciously feeling, even you are staring at a vacant air doing nothing also, somebody shakes you up and says, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's nothing. I was just looking at the sky, you may say. But you must understand that you are looking at the sky is also you are aware of that. That awareness being at the back of the mind parallelly running is called as chit. That is why this chittam becomes the seat of your memory, because all these experiences get stored in your system because of this awareness. So memory is definitely function of this consciousness, conditioned consciousness. So these two things, arrogating thought and awareing thought, which you can say like that, are the two inner equipments which is functioning in the background. And these two thoughts, which are mind and intellect, are functioning on the foreground. So what we need to understand as ego is this Ahankar, which is the thought which says, I am this. I am this body. I am this mind. I am this intellect. See, it is a thought like, say, just to give us an example, if a boy is celebrating his birthday on a particular day, throughout the day, somewhat within him, a thought remembrance is that today is my birthday. He may not consciously think of it, but that day, throughout the day, that thought is somewhat there. It is like that in the background, some thought is automatically being there. So we need not count as to at any point of time whether we have 2 thoughts or 3 thoughts. That's not the point of discussion, or that is not the analysis that we must do. But what we must remember is there is a thought that doesn't leave us at all till the point of self-realization. This thought arrogates, this is me, this body is me, this mind is me, this intellect is me. That thought is called as ego. This ego, as I said, is natural and it is there from the birth for all creatures, because sense of individuality is there, and that is why we are taking birth. But conscious ego, to develop further and boost ourselves, this only a human being does. Even a dog has an ego, cow has an ego, elephant and every creature has an ego. Every small insect also has an ego, and it is because of that ego that it is moving about. Right? So it has that self-protection. It has that sense of all those basic instincts that are going along with that. Everything is based on that ego. But a human being alone has this capacity to stand apart from the nature, fall out of nature, and have an exaggerated opinion of oneself, by which he can boost his already present ego further. And that is what is causing harm. Not the basic sense of individuality that everybody has, and how we need to work on it, that is a different thing altogether. But we do not stop at that. We have this tendency to boost our ego further and further, which results in various other negative emotions that are happening within us. That is based, all are centered around this point of ego only. This ego manifests in us in 3 distinct ways. Ego manifests in 3 ways. The first is that I am supreme. I am supreme is a form of ego which says that I know everything. Nobody else knows anything. Before even I start a discussion with others, before he even utters a statement, I say, I beg to differ. No, sorry. Because what you say is rubbish. I am not even ready to listen to you, because I feel I know everything. This feeling of I know everything, which does not respect others' knowledge at all, not just respect others' knowledge, not even having that humility to even listen. Agreeing or disagreeing comes at the later stage, but I don't even listen to what others have to say, because I don't consider them having any knowledge. Only I know everything. This sense of arrogance, this sense of arrogance is what is being expressed as I am supreme. The next way that it manifests is that I alone exist. I alone exist means this ego of mine feels that the entire universe or the entire world is there to cater only to me. Others don't exist. I only exist. For example, if family members are watching a particular TV serial or a movie, whatever they are watching on TV collectively, a person walks inside, picks up the remote and suddenly changes the channel. He doesn't even have that. It might be that there is an important news that he wants to hear, or an important sports program that he wants to watch, which others may also watch. But the fact that he doesn't even have the courtesy to ask whether I can change or not, it only stems from the fact that others do not exist for him at that point of time. He only exists. This sense of exaggerated importance upon oneself to say that I alone exist is a manifestation of ego. A person is feeling cold in a room where there is meeting going on, and suddenly he switches off the AC, doesn't even consider whether others are feeling that same way, or should he even reduce the temperature, or should he switch off. He doesn't even have the courtesy to question. Not that he doesn't know how to question or something. That thought doesn't come at all. That thought doesn't come because he's so full of himself that I alone exist and others are there and their existence is subordinate to my existence. They are there only to cater to me. My existence is very important. This inherent thought, again, all this, you may say, I don't feel like this anyway. It is not that how you feel. It is not that this thought doesn't come to me. The fact that this thought doesn't come to you only because it is operating in the background and you are not aware of it. That is the way it manifests. That is the problem with ego. Anything with reference to ego is that we may be full of ego, but we will not be aware of what we are manifesting. Only others will be able to see to that extent. Only others will be able to see. At that point of time, they may not be even able to communicate to you. One is so full of oneself. So you can understand it this way, that no mad person knows that he is mad. Isn't it? A mad person, let us say, he is laughing, he is crying, he is running naked on the streets, he is doing all sorts of things. At that point of time, if he is fully mad, does he know that he is mad? He doesn't know. We know that he is mad because this person who is able to see him as a mad person is somewhat above him, somewhat better than him. He is 100% mad, you are not 100% mad, therefore you know that he is mad. If that person suspects, am I mad? Should I consult a psychiatrist? That very moment he is not mad. So when you are fully mad, you do not know that you are fully mad. But what is interesting is, it is not only applicable for a fully mad person, it is applicable for a partially mad person also. If you are 50% mad, you will not know that you are 50% mad. If you are 20% mad, you will not know that to that extent 20% that you are mad. So it is a what to say, a contradiction. It is a dilemma that we need to face, that a person who is full of ego may not know that he is egoistic, but that's how it functions. It manifests in such way. It is but very clear to others. When I say very clear to others, it is not that others are not egoistic. They are egoistic in their own way, but it becomes very pronounced in the relationship with others. Why it is pronounced as a relationship is because that ego, when it is manifest, creates a barrier between you and the world. That is what is happening. When ego is pronounced this way, there is an invisible fence that you draw around yourself, where there is a resistance between you and the world. It is like a live wire that is there, where you cannot cross over, others cannot cross. In other words, a normal, harmonious relationship is not possible when there is ego manifest. It is again temporary also, or in a long term also. Even a normally, a sense of sattvic person, a generally good person, even for a moment when he becomes egoistic, it is very clear that at that point of time there cannot be a communication. There is a resistance. So ego creates an invisible boundary between you and the world. It is not visible for you, but it creates that boundary which others will be able to feel. That is why when a person is egoistic, you don't feel like talking to that person. When a person keeps on talking about himself, you feel disgusted about it. The fact is, when we do the same thing, we don't know. But when it is there coming from the other side, it is very, very well pronounced. So it is in the second way is that it manifests as I alone exist. The third way of manifestation is that I am the doer. This I am the doer is in Sanskrit called as kartrutva bhavana. Kartrutva bhavana means a sense of doership. I am responsible for doing or executing this action. I did this. You know who is giving the talk today? I am giving the talk. Who is responsible for this class? I. It is a stupid feeling, but it is a very arrogant feeling, which is natural for anybody who executes any action. So in this respect, we need to clarify one point. We all know about the three gunas. Sattvic state is a high state where a person is slowly getting rid of his ego. Of course, Sattvic person also has an ego, but it is much more diluted and he is moving on the path of evolution. We will come back to that later. We see that the other two personalities, Rajasic and Tamasic, of which this Rajasic, which is a passionate personality, the passionate quality in you, which is full of action, which is full of agitation, which is full of stress and strain, that is where we see ego is very much manifest. Ironically, it is a tamasic person who has even a greater ego or a deeper ego. It is like that. But we are able to visualize it only when it is manifest. So it is very clear in a Rajasic person. So the sense of doership is a very clear indication of the Rajasic personality. You know, in Tamas how it manifests, or rather not manifests, I need not do anything. That is a greater form of ego actually. Tamasic person doesn't work at all and he doesn't accomplish anything. So he may apparently look like that he doesn't have any ego, but it is latent within him that he need not do anything. That is what is the thought that is predominating his personality. But we are talking about a manifest ego here. In manifest ego, it is coming out as sense of doership or kartrutva bhavana. What is this? Any action that we do, this individuality immediately puts a signature that I did it. I am doing it. There is a strong sense of my personality backing that action and sort of what to say, predominating the action, fully encompassing the action, that more than the action that I want to be visible as the doer of the action. This sense of individuality is called as kartrutva bhavana. Kartrutva bhavana means doership. Swami Ramatita dwells on this in a very great detail and he gives a very beautiful explanation for this when he is talking about the art of right action. He says, when does a person do a perfect action? Of course, it is a separate topic by itself where we are talking about how a person should not be, he should not have the appendages of action, which is the desire from the past, which is the fruit from the future, which is the doership in the present. So dealing with the fruit, dealing with the desire is a separate thing. But dealing with this doership, he says, invariably, even if a person is not having that, is able to come out of the fruit, which is the easiest of the three, and then he is also able to distance himself from the desire that is pushing the action. Invariably, what does not leave him or what is very hard to leave is this doership. As I am doing the action, a sense of doership is encompassing. That I am doing this, I am doing this. But he says, analyze any of your actions that you yourself felt happy about. Now you can analyze the actions that you have done in the past. What was the action or when was that action that was performed which you yourself felt very satisfied about? What you may call as a perfect action from your level. What was an optimum action at your level? That action is done when your ego is absent. Gavaskar, the cricketer, used to sometimes, he said in his interview that when sometimes his, the audience, when they clapped, only then he realized that he had scored a century or a half century. That means he was not focusing on the scoreboard. Obviously, he was not anxious about the future result, which is a century, nor he was bugged by the past failures of past innings and other things. He was just constantly focused on the action in the present. When you are constantly focused on the action in the present, when this individuality of yours, ego of yours, merges itself into the action, then you become the art itself. You are no more the artist who is creating the art. The artist becomes the art. Artist pours himself into the art. The sense of doership is absent there. A singer, when is the best music produced out of him? When he is sitting on the stage and singing, there is a sense of, yes, I am there, accompaniments are there, and the audience are there. So there will be a lot of distractions, there will be a lot of, and in and through he is concentrating and singing. But let us assume during the concert and a particular song, when he gets into that song completely, where that sense of individuality that I am singing goes away, he may not be aware of the accompanist also at that point of time. Whether audience are listening to him or not also, he doesn't know. He might sometimes close the eyes and get fully attuned to the subject of the song itself. At that point of time, the thought that I am singing is not there. What comes out is the best music. What comes out is the best song. But what this ego does is, after the action is over, it puts an individuality. I sang. I have done this. it puts a stamp on this. And then we genuinely feel we sang. But if you analyze your own best action is produced when your ego is absent. So therefore, we need to take a conscious effort to reduce our ego, to dissolve our ego. Then more and more action of ours, rather we merge with the divinity as it were. Divinity functions through us. And that is the best way, isn't it? When you are a flute doesn't produce by music, or when you want to produce music by yourself, it is a jarring music. Allow Krishna to play the flute. He knows how to play the flute. He is the master. So when Krishna plays, it's a very divine music. So make yourself, this flute represents your body, which is of 9 holes. Make itself empty. Christ makes this statement, empty thyself, I shall fill thee. Empty thyself means it's the same thing. Get rid of your ego. When you are full, I don't have a chance to enter, he says. So get rid of your ego, I will fill you. I am going to fill you completely. And then what comes out of you is a divine work, divine art. So it comes out as Kartritva Bhavana. And from even a practical point of view, it is stupid notion to say that I am doing everything. How is it that any action that is done by us is not done by us? Yes, you may also contribute, but if you analyze the total action, your contribution goes into insignificance in the totality. You are also one spoke in the total wheel. So therefore, that one spoke cannot claim more importance than the others. You are one player in the whole orchestra. That one player who is playing a violin or a flute or whatever drum he is playing, he is not the orchestra. The orchestra is totality in which you are playing a part. Even if you are not there, the orchestra will function. But since you have got a talent, you better join yourself and merge yourself into the orchestra. When you do like that, automatically you will play your part well, but you will not get that arrogation that I am responsible for the whole orchestra. That is what it is. Any action that you do is not done solely by you. Take even this action of talking. It is, okay, I can say I am talking, which is a normal statement, which is correct. But if some people are not sitting on the other side, who will I talk to? If their cooperation is required. If the technology is not there, how will we talk? The technology of, I am saying, the internet we didn't create. We didn't lay the cables. We didn't have that, whatever the Zoom or other technology that is involved in this class. Not only that, this knowledge that is being transacted, where is it coming from? It is coming from the rishis. It is coming from the great masters from time immemorial. If you calculate all the Guru Parampara, it is literally infinite, and you are in a small portion somewhere down the line. Up to my Guru, up to that Guru, everybody has contributed to this knowledge and given you the knowledge. The fact that you are sharing to others that knowledge, and not only that, the Sanskrit language which has produced all the literature of Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads, that we did not do. That is done by somebody, and the grammar and the rules and construction. So many people have contributed to that. Not only that, the English language in which it is communicated. If you take into consideration all this thing, the mobile phone that you are using to maybe listen to this, that phone was, you can say I bought it, it is my phone, but the technology and the making of it is not in your hands. Somebody did it. Yes, you have paid the money, but again, if you go into the analysis of how that money came to you, it is again infinite people have contributed to the fact that you own that money also. So whichever way you look at it, any action that is done by anybody at any point of time, however big or however small, is a contribution of not 100,000 million, it is countless people. Countless creatures also, we can say. A person who is a billionaire with reference to even selling agricultural products, he may sow the seed, but it is not he who is making it grow. Rain, he is not responsible. Sun, he is not responsible. So many factors have to come together to make one action possible. If you calculate all those things, your contribution also is there, but it goes into insignificance. 1 out of infinity, if you want to say, why will you have that arrogation? So despite all this, if I am having that notion that I am doing this, you are a great fool, says Bhagavad Gita. Ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Chapter 3, verse 27, famous verse. He says, Ahankara vimudatma. Vimudatma means a great fool. Mudatma, muda is fool. Vimoodatma is a PhD in foolishness. He's a great fool. Ahankara Vimoodatma Karta Aham. I am the Karta. I am the doer. Karta Aham iti manyate. He thinks like that. Look at it even from a perspective of what that statement says, from the absolute perspective. The moment you say, this is me, this is I, science says you have already changed. This is not you. So the person who is doing the action is not the person who is claiming that who is doing the action. Sir, every moment your cells are changing. The person who has logged in at 6:30 is not the same person who is going to log off at 7:30. You have changed. You may not notice the change, but you have changed. Your body has changed, your mind has changed, your intellect has changed, everything has changed. So the moment you point out, this is me, that is not you. It is a very, very minute thing that you need to analyze. So it is a illusory thing that you seem to have a sense of continuity and say, this is me, this is me. So that sense of me, which claims doership, Gita says it's Ahankara Vimoodatma. It's a foolish notion. So it is not just about point of view of humility. It is utter stupidity to say that I am doing this. You just cannot do it. That's the bottom line. How do we counter these three manifestations in a temporary level? We must have this knowledge. I am the doer, we discussed that you must always remember the contributions of thousands and millions of people who have contributed to the fact that you are also doing the action. So you also become part of the flow of the action. You are also part of the Ganga which is flowing. Like that you must consider. So remember and be thankful, be grateful to all others who have contributed also. Gratitude is the way. I am supreme. I am supreme. You feel you have the knowledge. Now we know that with advancement of modern science and technology and their specialization in every field, not everybody can possess every knowledge. You cannot possess all knowledge. It's not possible at all. Develop intellect so that you have respect for others' intellect also. At least have the humility first to listen to them. Have this doubt that he may be right also. So therefore, when you go to a doctor today, an eye doctor is not fully even looking into the eye. He's saying, I'm a retina specialist or something like that. To that extent, specialization has gone. To that extent, deeper and deeper study is there in every field of study. So how can anybody say that I know everything? It's again another stupid notion. So you have to start at least doubting that others can have knowledge, respect others can have knowledge. It is another matter, having got that knowledge, you can verify, come to a conclusion, agree, disagree, all that comes later. But at least first you must say, you must doubt that whether I don't know. That in fact, Swamiji says the 3 years of our study at Vedanta Academy, if we have learned 3 words, which is I don't know, then we have learned something, which is very difficult. That's why he's saying that again and again. We are studying Vedanta, we have gone there to understand all these things, reduce the ego. But at the end of it all, it may come that I know Vedanta now. That sort of arrogant feeling may come. And it is very, very subtly, it will come without your knowledge, without your awareness, without your consciousness. So therefore, the master always hammers this thought on you that as and when it comes, that we be very, very, conscious of your own ego boosting itself up. When we are here, I'll just say a practical way to deal with this. As I say, unconsciously also it will develop. Particularly in the spiritual field, when we have embarked on a journey to reduce our ego, to realize the self, where we understand the material pursuits and other pursuits are not that productive. We want to dedicate our lives towards unfoldment, spiritual unfoldment. Invariably, by the mere knowledge of certain facts about mind, intellect, and certain amount of your understanding, there is a vast disparity you will find between yourself and others. When I say others, those who are common, people who have not got access to this knowledge even at the basic level. So even without you wanting to become egoistic, the disparity itself creates a notion that you know and others don't know. Therefore, you will get that notion. Unconsciously, it will come. So the practical way to deal with it is always be in the company of highly spiritually evolved people. There is no substitute to satsang. Let us be very clear about it. Sir, some people were asking as to, and we are also uploading whatever Upanishad lectures as and when time is there, we try to upload in the YouTube. This also we do not know, because it involves a lot of other work also to before we upload. So we do not know when and how it comes. So can we not see it in the YouTube as and when it is convenient? Yes, definitely you can. But we recommend that we come together in, here is a class which is sort of what to say, choiceless situation where we are sitting across each other through computer. We are able to interact with each other. But ideally a classroom situation is required. Even though you might have known, you have heard everything, that coming together in a satsang is very important, because it creates an atmosphere where it is conducive for you to take in knowledge. In that vibration, when everybody is geared towards the self, and particularly when there's a guru, when there is a satsang, you ought not to miss it at any cost. In Kali Yuga, that is the only way. Only way means that is the most easiest way of all the ways available. We don't have the capacity of the earlier Yuga people to do tapas by ourselves for yajna and other great things. At least what we need to do is associate yourself in satsang. By association with the people who are there as gigantic as our guru, as great people, evolved souls, in their presence at least we will have this constant reminder that we are insignificant. This is not to lower our status, but a humility. There is a difference between, we'll come to that probably if we have time, that there is a subtle difference between inferiority complex and humility. One is tremendous ego, another is absence of ego, or going towards absence of ego. We'll come back to that. So here, I am supreme is tackled by this knowledge or by this remembrance that I alone cannot have all knowledge. I must respect others' intellect. I alone exist has to be tackled by the fact or the remembrance that world is not there to cater only to me. Others also have equal right of existence alongside me. In fact, the ideologies which consider animals and other creatures as inferior beings, which can be taken for granted, handled in whichever way they can be handled, is nothing but a manifestation of individual or collective ego of the human being, that we alone exist or I alone exist. In the video Earthlings, if you have chance, I would recommend everybody should watch it at least once. It is difficult to watch even for 5 minutes, but you need to watch it. It's a 60-minute documentary where they are showing all the cruelty that is done by humans towards animals. In the beginning, he says, there is a sense of arrogation that this is my community, this is my religion, this is my, in whichever ways. But he says, there is also an arrogance by way of saying, this is my species. So human being alone is the greatest species. Human beings have all the right to exist. And they use the world in whatever way they want, and do not even acknowledge the existence of the animal. So you can treat in a way. I'm not here talking about vegetarianism, non-vegetarianism. That is not the discussion here at all. That is an aspect of it. But whether through circus, whether through whatever way, even to eat an animal is one thing, but to be cruel to an animal is another thing. But where does it all come from? I exist. They don't have a right to exist. So ideology which says that this is what it is, that is what it is, a manifestation of your ego in a single way or in a collective way. But the point is, you need to have this understanding that everybody has an equal right of existence. Mother Earth, universe has provided like that. That is why Hinduism or Hindu way of life is always based on mutual coexistence. So a person who is along the path of evolution has this idea of harmony. In harmony, no doubt you cannot exist without causing damage to others. When you even take a vegetable from the plant, to that extent you can say it is, but you will cause the least disturbance to the nature. You will cause the minimum damage to the nature. That much awareness will be there. That is why it is said as a vidhi for a sannyasi. When I say a sannyasi, a renunciate, we are talking about a renunciate as a person whose awareness is at a very high level. When his awareness is at a high level, it is said that he will not even pluck fruits from the tree and eat. He should only eat the fruit which has fallen on the ground. We know that plants don't experience pain as animals, but the awareness of such a person is that when you pluck a mango from the tree, you see that a white color fluid comes that he considers as a blood of the tree. That is his feeling. So to that extent also, he will not want to damage others. To that extent, his harmony is there. So when you go beyond that, you become a rishi. A rishi is one who is in complete harmony with the nature. That is why Valmiki, having become a great rishi, it is said that in his ashram, and around this ashram, the aura is in such a way that there is a mutual coexistence of even animals which are opposed to each other, like a tiger and a deer will sit together. Like that, it is described to say how much harmony he was able to create because of absolute absence of the ego. So I alone exist is tackled by this knowledge that world is there to cater to everyone. You can, a quote is attributed to Gandhi that there is enough resources to provide for your need, but not for your greed. All the problem comes when you operate on your greed, which is excessive manifestation of your ego only. If you are able to confine yourself to your need, there is enough and more for everybody in the world to peacefully coexist. And as I said, I am the doer. You need to have gratitude and acknowledge the contribution of others. Right. Now, this ego of sense of I further manifests as sense of mine. Mine is possessiveness. I is ego. This belongs to me. This is called as possessiveness. Ahankara and mamakara. Aham is I, mama is mine. So based on this ego, egocentric desires come. Egocentric desires is I want this. The moment I want this, I possess it. This belongs to me. This does not belong to anybody else. All this is furtherance of ego. So that is why all these Rakshasas come in pairs. Kamsa, Chanura. Ego and egocentric desires. I and mine. Ravana, Kumbhakarna. I and mine. Like that it is. Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. I and mine. Symbolic of the two manifestations of ego in this way. That sense of I is ego. Sense of egocentric desires, which finally culminates in the possessiveness, is called as mind. Again, you look into any possession, you cannot possess anything. It is the further analysis of that you are not what you believe yourself to be. When you are not yourself, as you believe yourself to be, how can you even possess anything? No doubt, for practical purposes, you can say it is my son. But what in the sun is yours? Right from the time of conception to the delivery and everything that you calculate and you analyze, nothing is your contribution. In the sense, see, you cannot eat food if you don't have hunger. Hunger can you produce? No. In fact, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the hunger in you. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. That same sense of hunger for procreation, which is an urge to procreate, is not possible for you to produce by yourself. Who is producing it in you? It is there naturally for all creatures, naturally for you. Somebody else is doing it as it is. When that comes, the sperm of a man has to mix with the egg of a woman. Who produces the sperm? It is a product of the food that you eat. And food who produced? Not you. You can say it has gone into your mouth. That's about it. Who digests it again? That power also you do not know. If you analyze like that, that which is produced in the man in the form of a sperm is not fully his contribution. That which is the egg which is produced on the other partner, it is not her contribution fully. So this is again product of what she eats, etc. The act of procreation, the urge, the coming together, the formation of the fetus, the growth in the womb, the coming out, none of it as your contribution. Your only contribution is when it comes out, you claim that it is my son. So Swamiji says it's my sin to say that. So so if you analyze like this, so not that practically you should not say it's my son or my daughter, then whose it is? Obviously, that sense of possessiveness, by which you are holding on to the sun, by which you impose yourself upon the sun, and we discussed when we had that session on molding the children, that it is this possessive attitude of the parent which actually spoils the children. which in fact causes the drift between the children, between the parents and the child. So that is the sense of ego which is further manifesting as possessiveness. So you look at it, anything for that matter, my house, my money, my child, my anything for that matter, you cannot proclaim that it is yours. So all this is coming out of only knowledge. So ego is definitely a direct product of your ignorance, nothing else. By knowledge, we need to get out of this ignorance. Ego manifests or expresses itself in two ways: inferiority complex and superiority complex. This ego in you, this arrogating thought in you, constantly wants feeding. You need to constantly feed it. When we were in Chennai doing the college time, even now I think it is the unwritten rule that all the college students must stand only in the footboard of the bus. They should not get into it. Okay, when you have crowd, you may stand on the footboard. Even when there is no crowd, the college boys means you have to stand in the footboard. And it has become not just a habit, there is a kick about it. Wow, what is the kick? That when you are doing with all that style and other things, that others should also watch you. It should watch. So that gives me a kick. So ego is something that needs constant boosting. It is always wanting that, and even when others feed that ego, it wants that feeding more and more. When I am sick, others should dare sitting around me, inquiring about me, massaging me. When they do that, I will want that more and more. That is how the ego functions. And when others are not catering, then it's starving. It gets starved. So when it is fed more and more, it gains what is known as superiority complex. When it is starved, it feels inferior. Both are product of ego. Of these two, inferiority is worse, but I am saying both needs to be tackled. Both are extremely dangerous. Why should anybody feel superior or inferior? Remember this, we said inferiority may appear like humility. It is not so. It is diametrically opposite. And another important point that you need to remember about superiority and inferiority is superiority complex sometimes manifests as false humility. Swamiji talked about a person who wrote commentary on Ishavasya Upanishad, which is a mantra Upanishad, very subtle Upanishad. Maybe after Kena, by God's grace, if we are continuing the online classes, we should take Ishavasya. It's wonderful, wonderful Upanishad. And the Ishavasya Upanishad is called Ishavasya Upanishad because the first word is Ishavasya. Nobody knows which Rishi wrote, which Rishi gave up that Upanishad, and it is in that state of higher state of consciousness that knowledge comes through that Rishi is the Upanishad. So they did not even bother to put the signature that I have done this. Such are the great Mahatmas who gave the Upanishad, which is the knowledge for the entire universe. Now this person writes a commentary on the Upanishad. And obviously, for writing the sake of his, who write the commentary, you can write the name. That's not the point. He says, Swamiji said, before publishing, he wanted Swamiji's blessing, or he wanted him to review or something. He gave that book to him. Preface, he says, preface is in a small print, and that preface goes for 17 pages. And in the preface, it is all about not the book, not the subject. It is about he who is writing the book. I am nobody to comment on this Upanishad. All the mistakes in this book are mine. All the good things that I have written, something is writing like that. So every sentence has a I about it. In fact, Swamiji always says, you might have heard it in public lecture also, any book which contains I, it is not worth reading. At least in the preface, please check if it has I, tear off that page, he says. It is not worth reading in that sense. So Swamiji said, if you have done something, go ahead and publish. No, he said, I want your comment, I want your blessing. He was insisting. Then Swamiji finished him off. He says, when you yourself say that you don't have any competence to write commentary on the Upanishad, on what audacity you have to write a commentary. The Upanishad itself comes out from the mouth of a rishi when he is realized, when his ego is absent. And you are writing a commentary on which, in every sentence you are talking about I, it's not worth reading, he said. Now, the point I'm trying to make is, the fact that he is writing that I am nobody to write, I don't know anything about the subject, that he is pronouncing it again and again is a mark of a superiority complex to say that I have written this book. It is I who is competent of writing this book. It gets manifest in a way that it is opposite, false humility. On the other hand, inferiority complex sometimes or many times manifests itself as extra superiority. It's very interesting. You need to remember this to see the behavioral pattern in others. Not to criticize or condemn others, but you will know where it comes from and how to relate to that person. A person who feels inferior because of whatever reason. See, some people feel inferior because they don't. In fact, now I would say it is not there. Indians are regaining their confidence and other thing, but because of the British rule and various other things, with all the knowledge, with all the culture, with all the intellect that we had, still we felt inferior because of maybe not speaking English language, or even see our Indian Parliament. I do not know still. It may be subject to correction. Till recently, or even now, there is a two members of Rajya Sabha needs to be appointed from the Anglo-Indian community. We are into 73rd year of our independence. Imagine in the constitution they have put that two members from Anglo-Indian community must be nominated in Rajya Sabha, which is a free nation, which is governed by people of India. If it is there, where did it all stem from? Sir, it is a different topic and a different exercise. If we get into it, it's what to say, we get involved in it and we become very passionate about it as to the story of writing of Indian constitution itself. One Mr. Banerjee, I think he wrote, and what is his background and who are the people who formulated it, who are instrumental behind it. It is a what do you call? It's a beautiful story for us to read and understand, to learn. Now that we feel inferior when a Britisher walks in and we stand up, all this is because of that complex developed within us for a long time. But when you ask a person to leave his inferiority and move towards the center, he invariably slips into superiority. In both cases, it is the ego that is functioning. When a person has this inferiority, in order to prove himself, in order to make himself heard in front of others, in order to make himself respectable in front of others, he will shout. He will pass vulgar comments about others. And he will consider himself to be superior. It is easily noticeable. So inferiority expresses itself as false superiority, and superiority expresses itself as false humility. Both are dangerous. Of these two, inferiority complex is more dangerous. That doesn't mean that we need to have superiority complex. Both are equally bad. Na atimanita, says Bhagavad Gita. You must not have much pride. Much pride is superiority. What it means is, already we have ego, the fact that we are born as an individual. At least you must not take the direction by which you are boosting this ego further and further. You must go in the other direction where you are reducing the ego, diluting the ego further. So atimanita, absence of much pride. Now, what is the difference between humility and inferiority complex? Humility is a virtue. Humility is a product of knowledge. Humility is, see, when you have a small bubble, when you consider yourself as a small bubble, that is inferiority complex. When one bubble swallows the other bubble and a big wave or a big foam or a big bubble it becomes, that is inferiority complex. Superiority complex. Small bubble is inferiority, big bubble is superiority, but you are neither the small bubble nor the big bubble. The bubble has to burst itself and realize that it is the ocean. Ocean is infinite. This knowledge is finally saying that you are not that individuality, you are the infinite self. So when you are standing in front of that supreme knowledge, automatically the individuality that you have now goes into insignificance. that automatic hitting on the head by which your head bows down in front of the totality, that is called as humility. Humility is a virtue. That is why humility, which is Vinaya, will always go along with Vidya. Vidya means knowledge. Vinaya means knowledge. And in the 20 qualities of Jnani, which Krishna gives out in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, verses 8 to 12, the first quality starts with Amanitvam. What is interesting is all the qualities of Jnani given there is none of the qualities that we consider that he is a Jnani is given there. And none of the qualities given there that we possess, that we need to develop. First quality is Amanitvam. Amanitvam means absence of pride, humility. There's a couplet of Kabir which is somewhat equivalent to this. It says, Poti padapad jagmara pandit bayana koi, dai akshar premaka padesu pandit hoy. A person who has read all the scriptures, he is not a knowledgeable person. Yes, you can call him from normal point of view, a pandit, a scholarly person. But one who has read the intense meaning of love, he understands Dai Akshar Premka. What is love? Love is nothing but identification with the others. Identification comes from that expansion of your consciousness, which is equivalent to reduction of ego only. He is a pandit. He is a real knowledgeable person. So, when you have that knowledge, automatically your head goes down in humility. So, humility is the automatic effect of the insignificance of the individuality in front of the totality. On the other hand, inferiority complex is to feel that I am that small bacteria, I am that small mosquito, I am that small bubble, and you don't consider or know anything about the ocean at all. So they are totally opposed, but they seem to be same. They may manifest themselves to be same. So quickly, we will finish with this discussion about inferiority and superiority is not complete till we read this poem. Simple poem in Poems book and Vedanta treatise also it's given. Written by the great Ralph Waldo Emerson, who says that he takes bath in Bhagavad Gita every day. This is his product. You can see that. There were two entities here. There are two entities, Mountain and the Squirrel. They had a quarrel. The Mountain and the Squirrel had a quarrel, and the former called latter little prig. That means Mountain is calling the Squirrel, you little prig. One replied. Squirrel replied, you are doubtless very big. No doubt you are very big. But all sorts of things and weather must be taken in together to make up a year and a sphere. If you want to look at the totality, it says you have to take everything into account. If you want to make a year, all seasons you have to take. Only summer doesn't make a year, only winter doesn't make, only monsoon doesn't make, all things make up. And a sphere. Sphere means the sphere of the totality of this world or the universe, everything plays a part in it. There are the things which are living beings and non-living beings. All the elements, all the plants, all the insects, all the birds, beasts, men, everybody have to come in together. But all sorts of things and weather must be taken in together to make up a year and a sphere. This is very important. And I think it no disgrace to occupy my place. I have a place. I am having a role to play in the orchestra. I have my place, and it is not a disgrace. So you have a sense of pride. This pride is not on the individual. It is called as Vastu Gaurava. It is the pride on the deed that you do. So when I say I'm a disciple of such and such person, I feel proud about it. It's not about me. It is about the person whose disciple I am. I am proud that I belong to India. The pride is about the pride I place on India. That is a allowable pride. I think it is no disgrace to occupy my place. If I am not so large as you, you are not so small as I. So what? You are big deal. I am small. You are big. And half not so spry. You are not an active person. You are not an active person like me. I'll not deny that you make a very pretty squirrel track. The mountain also has a role to play. So he says, you make a pretty squirrel track and I run on it. Last three lines are very important. Get it by heart. Talents differ. All is well and wisely put. If I cannot carry forests on my back, neither can you crack a nut. Mountain is so big, it can carry forests on the back, but it cannot crack a nut, which the squirrel can do. So the mountain should not feel superior because of its bigness. The squirrel should not feel inferior because of its smallness, because everybody has a role to play. In a cooperative endeavor, everybody has to function. One thing, one can be subtle, one can be gross. That is a different thing. One may need to do a subtle job, one other may to do a gross job. That is the thing. But that feeling of superiority because of either you do gross or subtle job, that is superiority or inferiority complex, which we need to avoid. Other things about ego, maybe we will continue in the next class. How do we dissolve this ego? Where does it go? Aspect of probably surrender, we will take it up in the next class. You can unmute from your side and ask question. Meenakshi.
Yeah, Guruji Meenakshi here. There's one sentence that you said, ego is a direct product of ignorance.
Yes.
So ignorance here means the ignorance of this knowledge?
Ignorance at both the levels. Ignorance of the supreme self that you are. Ignorance of the infinite self that you are is the basic reason for the individuality to exist. Okay, that is the basic ego.
Yeah.
But even at the relative level, we are ignorant of this knowledge, which and the higher the people. Let us say there is a statement in English which says the empty vessels make more noise, right? Like that. Even as you gain more and more knowledge, even in the world, you become more humble. So the moment that I'm ignorant, I consider myself, I know everything. That is ego. So therefore, what we talked about is from the absolute level, but it applies at the relative level also. Okay, here is a question from Shubro. How do I control my ego to proper, especially some highly egoistic person deliberately hurts my ego repeatedly? If everything is cause and effect, I have no choice but to be egoistic in order to face the egoistic person. No. In order to, the counter for egoism is not your egoism. That will only lead to clash. Why do conflict happen in family? Why do conflict happen in organization, between labor and management, between nations? It is only conflict of ego, nothing else. So one ego, in fact, when there is a conflict, at least temporarily other persons withdraws for a minute or two, at least I would say. Then there is chance for consolidating oneself and have a discussion. It's possible. It's not possible when one ego clashes with the other ego. There will be only lot of stress and strain on both things. But how do I control my ego? As I said, it's that's a different topic by itself, which we hope to take in detail. But in general, we need to work on the karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, all those spiritual path that we take to reduce our desires, reduce our ego. That's a long-term thing. But from the short term also, as I said, remember this awareness, remember this knowledge, and how to tackle an egoistic person is a different thing. Tackling a person and tackling a situation is a different thing. But at any point of time also, if you are able to hold yourself at that point of time and let's say you drink water and just think for yourself for a moment, only then you will be able to give the proper response and put the other person in his place also. Shakespeare says, beware of entrance into quarrel, but once you are in it, once you are inside the quarrel, make sure that the opposite beware thee. That means you make sure that the other person is afraid of you. You don't get into a quarrel at all. But if you are forced into a situation where you have avoided everything, then you have to make sure that you finish off the other person, he says. And this is also possible without ego only. So all this needs training. The only thing is to develop intellect and create that awareness. So when your intellect is at 50%, all the things before that you will be able to tackle. When it goes beyond, you will not be able to tackle. Minimum you can have is an awareness about that at point of. That's all you can say. Madhumita, is having superiority complex or inferiority complex the same thing? It does not stem from low esteem. It is not the same thing, definitely. But the base of both is ego. Yes, low self-esteem is a product of inferiority. It's a manifestation of inferiority only. And arrogance and other things, it's very clearly superiority complex only. So people tend to oscillate between the two. In front of a high-ranked person, I may feel inferior. In front of a low-ranked person, I may feel superior. In front of those persons who don't know even ABCD, I think I am a Shakespeare. In front of those who know all poetry, and in that crowd I go, I feel inferior. So this is relative to each other. And not only that, when genuinely a person wants to come out of this also, when genuinely a person is trying to, he will definitely not immediately come to the middle path. From inferiority, he will invariably go towards superiority and then only settle in the middle path slowly. So we tend to oscillate on the middle path, both sides also. And then middle path is towards going towards the self. So it is not the same. You missed my question in the chat. Please help. What is the? Is there anything called the cosmic ego? Explain. No, there's no such thing as cosmic ego. Because when you talk about cosmic ego, when you're talking about macrocosm, ego is a function of microcosm, because microcosm is an individual which feels itself different from the totality. Macrocosm, when we talk about the consciousness, it's a supreme consciousness, which is the tattva called as Ishvara or God or supreme self. Supreme self doesn't have ego. Kamal Prakash, any daily practice we would recommend? Sir, the daily practice is that we need to study the scriptures, get into the e-learning and early morning study, and the integrated practice of karma, bhakti, jnana. This is the main thing. And as I mentioned, always be with satsang. That's a very practical thing. We have company of holy people, have company of, even in a desert which is bereft of trees, there will be some oasis, some trees somewhere. So you can say in this Gora Kali Yuga, whatever it is, there is always a good set of people, satsang, those who are involved in knowledge, guru. All these are the association that you always need to maintain. Satsangatve nisangatvam. It's from the satsang that it starts everything. So maintain satsang weekly. Once you attend a class or something like that, keep the books that you have and all those things which are conducive for that. That is the way to go. You have mentioned how to deal with superiority complex. Please suggest way to deal with inferiority complex. Okay, as I said, from tamas to rajas, first get into action. Doesn't matter if you even develop ego first, in terms of better than not doing anything is to have doing something and have that ego also. So rajas is the antidote for tamas first, and wherever you have a doubt, immediately act. As I said, sattva and tamas may mimic each other. If you have a doubt whether it is tamas or sattva, you do not know, get into action. Err on the right side. You will not make a mistake.
Poornam Adah, Poornamidam, Poornat Poornamudachyate, Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.